If you want to display a report that has parameters using a custom URL, you can take one of a couple different approaches. The first is to not include the parameter values in the URL. In that case, Reporting Services prompts the user for the parameters, then displays the report using those values. This is similar to the process a user uses when displaying the report through Report Manager. But again, it won't be in the context of Report Manager, but it's the same basic process. The second option is to prompt the user for parameters from within your custom application, or perhaps only allow the user to execute the report using fixed parameter values, and then pass the parameters to Reporting Services as part of the URL. And when you do that, you would use syntax that looks like this. So HTTP, hostname, report server, folder report, that part is the same. That's the base of the custom URL for a specific report. But then you just add query string parameters, parameter 1 equal value 1, parameter 2 equal value 2, and so on, for as many parameters as are required by the report. Now, it's important that you understand that the parameter 1, the names that you use there, are the internal names in the report. So this is the internal name that you program parameters against within the report definition, not the display name that appears when the user looks at the report, because the two can be entirely different. And then you just specify the different values. All right, let's take a look at this method using the product sales ad hoc report. So in this first example, this is just going to run the report and let the report prompt the user for the parameter values, because I haven't included any kind of query string parameters on the end here. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And as you can see, I have a begin date and end date. The report's not rendered because I haven't passed any values for those required parameters. All right, so I'll put in something here. I think August 1st, 2006 will work. And August 1st, 2006. That'll give me a range of data. And view the report. And there's the data. So you could do that from within your application. You're not really customizing the URL, but that way the user is prompted for the parameters and you're good to go. Now I'm going to go back to that page, and here's an example of using a URL and providing parameters. So I'm specifying begin date, which is the internal name of that first parameter, setting it equal to June 1st, 2006, and then adding a second parameter, end date, for June 30th, 2006. And I can continue to add as many parameter name-value pairs as I need to fully specify the report that I want to display to the user. Now I click on this URL. Notice that the values are already populated there, and I get that data, and the report displays those values that were selected by the parameters. All right, and to make the point, notice that the display name is end space date. But in the URL, I actually used end date without a space, which is the internal name of that parameter. All right, I'm going to go back to this report. And one other thing to notice about this is that the parameter section of the HTML viewer is displayed. So even though this is the initial view that the user gets of this report, they can then go in and change the dates and end up with a different report. So maybe they only want from June 20th to June 30th. It's currently 24 pages. View the report. And now it's gone down to just 2 pages. It's a much smaller date range. So the user still has the ability to change the parameter values, even though they initially saw the report with the parameter values that you specified. All right, now one other note about doing this. It is possible to allow parameters to have multiple values. And so, for example, let's say, not real great example here, but let's say that one of the parameters for this report was also geographical region. And so I would have maybe and country equals United States. But if the country parameter allows multiple values, then what I could do is say and country equals United States, and country equals Canada, and country equals Mexico, for as many values as I want to provide. So I have duplicate values of that parameter, and reporting services sorts it all out, assigns multiple values, and you're good to go. Providing report parameters is just one of many things that you can do by manipulating the report URL. One example is that by using additional parameters on the URL query string, you can tell reporting services to directly render the report in a different format. The default's HTML. So it's bypassing that normal rendering of the HTML format. So here's the basic syntax. So you have the base portion of the URL, hostname, report server, folder, and report. And then rs::command equals render, so that's telling it to render the report. And rs format, and then you specify the rendering format. Now you have a number of different options for that render format parameter. You can specify HTML 4.0, and that's the literal string that you provide as the value of the format option. So this is that default format. It displays a standard toolbar and paginates the output. It's an HTML browser-based report. Second is mHTML, and this is the Microsoft Web Archive format. So this is something that Internet Explorer supports, and it can be used for archiving web content using the specific mHTML format. It's a single page, contains all of the resources that make up multiple pages for a report. You can also specify PDF, and that will output in the Adobe Portable Document format. You can specify image. That renders the report in the tagged image file format, or TIFF. You can specify Excel, and that renders the report as an XLSX format. Or you can specify Word, outputs it as a Word document, CSV for a comma-separated values format, or XML to render it as XML, which includes a pretty good hierarchical rendering of the structure of the report. So those are all of the values that you can specify as the value of the format option. Here's an example of rendering the product sales ad hoc report using PDF, the PDF format. So I'm passing in the required parameters because I need to specify something for those parameters. And then I want to output it directly to PDF. I don't want to view it as HTML. I just want a PDF file. So I'll go ahead and click on that link. And notice that Internet Explorer prompts me for what I want to do with that PDF file. I can open it directly. I can save it to wherever I want. I'll just go ahead and open it directly, and it'll open it in my default PDF viewer, which is Foxit. And I can scroll through here and see the data. Now, one thing to point out about this is that this report really wasn't designed very well for output to PDF, at least in Portrait, because the parameter values here, this little header item, was cut off, so I can't see what the parameter values were. Another problem is that there are too many columns to fit in Portrait. So if I go to the end, you'll see that the later pages display the second set of columns to the right. Okay, so not really optimal for displaying to a PDF in the Portrait format. At least you can do it. And you can change the design of the report to take care of those shortcomings. All right, now, one potential downside to displaying reports to other formats using the URL is that most of the time you don't have the ability to change the report so that it renders well in the chosen format. Okay, so for example, if I take a look at the drill down report, this report displays summarized data about companies, grouped by geographic area and subregions. And the report was explicitly designed to initially display with all sections collapsed, as you see here. But the user can expand the various sections and drill down into the information. Okay, I'm going to close all these back up again and go back over here. So now I'm going to render this report directly as a PDF. I'll click on the link, and open it, and notice that all I get is that top-level summary view. Now this could be fine. This may be all that the user wants. They just need to know the count of companies in each of those 3 countries. But if they wanted to see the detail, this isn't going to work. All right, so that's a little bit of a downside. By going directly to that output format, I don't have the opportunity to change what I'm going to see in that format. So in this case, it might be better to just go ahead, let the user display the report, make the changes they want, expand different sections and so forth, and then render it to a PDF themselves. Now, one interesting quirk is, let me go back to the report one more time. So I'm rendering it as HTML. I'm going to expand a few things. I'll expand some stuff in British Columbia, go down to Vancouver. Okay, so I've got some cities in Vancouver rendered, and I've expanded United Kingdom and expanded England. So now I'm going to go back and once again render this as PDF directly. Notice that because the last time I viewed the report in the current session, I had sections expanded. They end up being expanded in this final report. So you can see, unfortunately, the columns are cut off. We'll see those in later pages. So Vancouver was expanded. For the United Kingdom, just England was expanded. I didn't expand any of the cities. And there you can see the right-hand set of columns. So now you can see the companies within that city in the UK. Okay, so again, report's not really well designed for exporting to default PDF format, but you can change it and output it to landscape as well. There's various things that you can do. But keep in mind that there's this limitation that whatever is visible by default in either the initial view of the report or the state of the report when the user previously viewed it in the same session, that's the state of the data that they're going to get. Okay, now different output formats do that differently. So like for example, CSV outputs all of the data. Okay, so that depends upon the particular behaviors of the different output formats.